Okay, good morning, everyone. Hi, Larry. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Well, good morning, everyone. We've got two special guests here today. We've got Evan Richardson and we've got Daniel Cunningham. Both are first vice presidents of multifamily housing. They're both real estate brokers. They broker large multifamily properties in the South Florida, Southeast, and Southwest Florida areas. They're both good friends of mine and Larry's as well. So we're excited to have them here today. So welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's great to be here.
sure. Excellent. So one of the reasons Larry and I spoke about it, we wanted to have you on today because, first of all, we both know you very well personally, but also professionally. Both Larry and I have purchased multifamily properties through your team that you guys have built, an amazing team. And we're both happy with the purchases. That's the best part. Exactly.
That's what matters most.
Yes, exactly. But both of you are really intelligent guys. You're well spoken. So we wanted to have you on to pick your brains about how you built your team, how you built your careers, some tips that you have for investors that are out there that are looking to get into multifamily housing or already in it and want to learn more about it from experts such as yourself. So let's get started here. And Evan, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got to Marcus Millichap, how you got into multifamily brokerage, and what your journey has been, and how you've gotten to this place.
Sure. And thanks again for having us here, guys. So I got started in commercial real estate actually in 2005, more so with a focus on retail leasing. But I always really wanted to be on the investment sales side. So in 2012, I had a great opportunity to start at Marcus and Millichap. And, really kind of took off. My career more so took off from there. And joining Marcus Millichap in 2012. And
so you've been doing this for over a decade. Yeah.
Yeah. On the investment sales side and focusing on multifamily, right around a decade, like you said. And, had the pleasure and great opportunity to team up with Daniel and of course, Derek Gibbs as well. Mm-hmm. So, like I said,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, just saying that, it's been, really propelled my career from there. Obviously, a lot of hard work and a lot of other things that everything that goes into it. But, there's definitely some challenges in the beginning and starting out in investment sales. It can take a while to really start making some good money.
Got it.
So
it's not as glamorous as it looks right now when you're driving your
right.
European cars and
exactly
a lot of it wasn't overnight that you got here.
That is for sure. Okay. That is for sure. As we were talking a little earlier, I mean, I even had to essentially move back in with my parents as a single guy in my early 30s, kind of swallow my pride.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To limit the overhead, until I really started making some money. So.
What made you decide you wanted to go into real estate? Did you study this, or what was your?
Well, when I graduated college in 2004, and around that time period, obviously the market was really starting to just get it insane with where we're at in the real estate market. So that piqued my interest.
Days.
Yeah, exactly. So literally everyone and their mother was buying a house or flipping a house in a condo, you know what I mean? You'd be at the grocery store and literally grandma in line is, hey, I just bought 2 condos, so I'm like.
Note to investors,
right.
If grandma wants to flip condos, get out.
But that, no, it's all good. I mean, it's a lot of truth to that. So, from there, that piqued my interest in the real estate industry in general. And I never really had a strong interest on the residential side. I always was leaning toward more commercial and investment real estate. So that was my first job, like I said, really real job out of college was in 2005 in commercial real estate. It was a very small, husband and wife team, but it was a great starting point to I figured get my foot in the door and start somewhere, right? So that was what, kind of initially piqued my interest. And like I said, at the time, the market was on fire. It was like,
everyone's a winner.
Exactly. I don't want to say it wasn't that difficult to make good money, but there was a lot of people obviously very successful at the time.
The phone.
Yeah, right. So that was really a lot of my initial interest, and then from really just grinding it out at Marcus and Millichap. Actually started there in 2012, but more technically started with Daniel and Derek in 2000, end of 13, beginning of 14, and that's going through a very difficult first year, but then them taking me on and bringing me as part of the team is, like I said, from there, just
Working your way up.
absolutely,
One of the best
grinding.
decisions we ever made.
That's amazing.
Just
Well,
hard
yeah.
work, hard work and sticking with it, I think is the key,
The key, yeah.
There's-
So those first 2 years, from what I've heard, I mean, in any type of brokerage business, and I'm sure with you, Larry, although your trajectory was very quick for a variety of reasons, but there is a grind that's involved. I think in almost any career, there's going to be. It's a learning curve, and you just have to put the hard work in because you have to create the leads, especially when you're in sales, which, and some extent, I'm an attorney, real estate attorney, but I'm in sales as well. I have to earn my clients' trust and bring the business in. So when you're in sales, it takes a while. It is a grind, and
Absolutely. Yeah,
you
definitely.
work through it. So, and Daniel, what about yourself? Give us the
Starting from the beginning.
Cliff Notes.
I actually, it's weird. I'm not supposed to be here.
Okay.
I should have never gotten into real estate. It's kind of an odd thing that I've basically ended up here. I actually came to South Florida to go to med school. I did my first year in UM. It just wasn't for me. I just saw doctors that were 40, 50 years old, looking 60 or 70 and just going through divorces, no family life, working sick, can't afford malpractice. You can't tell a patient, hey, you're going to be okay. Can't do that anymore. And so I just kind of fell out of love with the possibility of doing that. And I was like, wow, degree in molecular cell biology. What am I going to do with that now? So I went into emergency medicine. I went to paramedic EMT and fire school in like a year and 7 months, which was fast track because I had all the background. And then by the time I started looking for a job there, the market started to crash a little bit. And I was bartending. That's how I paid the bills. So I put myself through college. So I'm bartending at J. Alexander's, JB's on the beach here local.
and doing magic tricks too.
I was going to comment on this.
He's a master magician. Yeah.
Look, if you can make an extra couple of bucks doing something, I'll do it. All right. We'll talk about that later if you want. But I kind of fell into it. Derek Gibbs, which is one of my best friends and my business partner for over 20 years, God rest his soul. He was the experimenter. He would try this career, that career, and he'd always come back to the bar. He'd always come back to the restaurant if something didn't work out. And he got into commercial real estate, and he was just so excited about it. And I was like, look, I'm not the guy to drive grandma to look at the cabinets. It's just not what I want to do. Daniel, it's different. It's like businessy, and there's computers, and there's like an office, and you meet people. And I'm like, he was so excited. I was like, all right, his mentor came to the bar, and then he said, man, you'd be perfect at this. You got the personality. And so I was like, I'll give it a try. I don't work days, I work nights. And so that's how I ended up in commercial real estate. And I'll tell you what, I never look back. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm my own boss. I have my own team of people that I trust and believe in and work with. I come and go as I please. Honestly, though, when you work for yourself, you tend to work a lot harder.
Of course.
That's a lesson I learned.
It's not an 8 to 5.
You would think it was
thing,
the
right?
opposite, but I'm not the guy that can, you got 10 minutes for a bathroom break or be back. Or, Daniel, your job called, you're late. You're going to get written up. Like,
Yeah.
It's not for
But
me.
on the other hand, when you get the call about the deal there's problems on it at 8 o'clock at night, you have to
take
take
it.
the call. Yeah,
of course.
Or it's supposed to close the next day, and
You take it.
there's been some kind of emergency or a flood in a unit, and you have to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So there's no 8 to 5 in this this world.
As you get better in the business, you get to the point where you don't have as many emergencies because you're able to take care of the problems before they come up, but it always happens.
Yeah.
And I started in real estate with Marcus Millichap at the end of 2006. So right as the condo conversion craze was up there and they just started to like crash. So I remember, and this is I tell this to all the people we train. I remember in 2007, I was at the Ritz in Miami, and they had this thing in our company called the East Coast Sales Meeting, where all the producers from the East Coast would go to either Chicago or Miami. They'd alternate every year for these big meetings for the whole weekend. And we're down in Miami, and we're like, okay, there's 7 of us, shared a room because we couldn't afford a room by ourselves. You know what I mean? We brought our food, we brought our beverages because we couldn't afford to eat down there because we're broke. And we're sitting around the pool with all these guys making millions of dollars a year still, drinking margaritas, sitting in these little, inner tubes. And they're like, you're so lucky, kid. And I'm like, what are you kidding? I'm not making anything. I'm not going to make anything. It's the best time to get into real estate. I'm not going to make any money. They're like, no, but you're going to learn all the skills necessary to solve all the problems for the rest of your career.
Mm-hmm.
The harder it is the best time to get in.
Yeah.
So buckle down, don't give up. You're going to come out on top.
Yeah.
And I remember that to today.
That's great.
And and I've seen so many people come and go from the real estate industry. They'll come when it's packed and busy and making money, but as soon as it gets tough, they don't know how to solve the problems. That's when those agents just start to disappear.
Sure.
So
yeah. Great. So tell us a bit about how Marcus Millichap has a really amazing team and training structure that they put together, and that's why they're definitely one of the top agencies and brokerages in the multifamily space, but also commercial space as well. One of the top brokerages as well, and they're a national brokerage. What is the program like when you get in, and how does that go? It's almost like boot camp in the beginning, right? You're just hitting the phones in the beginning. And how does that work? Doing lots of cold calling, or what's the program?
The basis for what I tell all the mentees that come in, and I say, look, you have to understand something. The firm wants you to do X. You have to make so many calls a day, so many calls a week, get so many meetings a week, so many proposals, which we call analysis of properties, a week. If you're not getting the analysis and you're not getting the meetings, but you're getting the cold calls, you're going to be fine, because eventually you're going to figure it out on the phone. Mm-hmm. Trial and error, rejection from these clients. You know how it is. You get in a conversation and you leave and you're like, oh man, I should have said this when that guy said that. So the next time you make the call, you'll have that little arrow in your quiver, we call it, to combat that objection.
Building that mental muscle.
Exactly. So it's almost like a debate. You go to debate and you have to do debates to get good at debate.
And you just focus on the process, right? Like,
correct.
That's what I tell my people, focus on the process. Forget about the outcome right now.
Yep.
You got to get the skill sets down. So make those calls, try to get to the goal, but it's okay. Just keep putting the inputs in. The outputs will come later.
The guy that makes 100 calls is going to be twice as successful as the guy that makes 50 over a long period of time. It's small incremental improvements. And so if you do what the firm tells you to do, you're going to be fine, because they've proven it over the course of 50 years. This is what they do. They're the best training brokerage commercial firm in the country. Nobody else really trains their brokers. They just hire from Marcus and Millichap.
I've heard that too, because I talk to a lot of brokers, right? Commercial brokers, and a lot of them will go to you guys to get the education, and then maybe they'll stay, but if they leave, they're out in the world using your education, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been, to Daniel's point, a lot of successful brokers that they got their experience at Marcus and Millichap and then have moved on. But obviously, we really enjoy the company and the platform. To your point, as far as following the platform, goes a long way.
I liken it to special forces training at Marcus Millichap. You get that, and then maybe you go off and be a contractor, working.
Very little barbed wire at Marcus Millichap. Very.
But it is it's a grind there. But listen, the results prove itself. Those folks who enter the Marcus Millichap pipeline and they stay, at the end of the process, they're millionaires. I mean, I see what people do there. Those who've been with the firm for 10, 20, 25 years invariably do very well for themselves. So that's great. Tell us a little bit about the now that you've reached a successful part of your career, you've gotten through the early parts, gotten over that hump and grind. How many transactions or the volume of transactions have you done, for example, Daniel, since you've been there a little longer on the team, and Evan joined your team a little later? What's the volume?
Well, not to be cocky, but it changes daily.
The zeros are added on a weekly basis.
I mean, we're sitting here right now, and it's but I would say we've closed at least probably over $1 billion in actual commercial real estate volume, well over 500 transactions, commercial transactions.
$1 billion with a B, right? That's what I heard.
Yeah.
It's a capital.
Yeah.
No,
Capital.
Not to be cocky. No, but
that's very impressive. Yeah, very impressive. And that's on a team where not asking the percent commissions or how much money you've personally made, but how many people are in that split of those commissions on your team?
Well,
is it 2, 3? What?
For the most part, the majority of the transactions and the actual volume has come from Evan, myself, and Derek. And we've brought on mentees from here and there. Some have worked out, some haven't. The new ones are doing really well. Yeah. They'll add to that as the future unfolds, but most of their deals are smaller deals in the beginning. So
very impressive. And you'll hear Derek's name throughout this. So just for those people, obviously, who are watching this, Derek was a great friend of ours, your business partner. He passed away sadly during COVID. We all miss him. He was an amazing guy and an electric personality, and God rest.
Nobody like him.
No one like him. They don't make him anymore, like Derek. So, can you give us a sort of a sense for what your team looks like? How is it laid out? How many people are on the team? What are their roles? What do they do? And how did you build it?
Okay. So right now we have 2 junior agents. We brought 1 junior agent on. We trained him. We got him ready. The company also trains. So the company has their own training program, and within our team, we have our own training program as well. So we're just double hitting them.
So what does that look like? So you kind of you hire somebody on, and then you plug them into the training program. They go through weeks or a month, or is it like, how does that work?
So typically the firm brings people on. Our first trainee we brought on by ourselves. We found him outside. But typically the firm will bring them on, and they'll put them through like an interview process. And these agents will go from all the senior agents, and they'll meet all the senior agents, give their resume, and they'll be interviewed by all the senior agents. What the firm really wants, since they approached the team mentality several years ago, which I have to say our team was original before they approached the team mentality, which is ours was one of the basis for which they started the team mentality. So when I started in the firm, they were very anti-team, very anti-groups.
It was just individual agents.
They wanted all solo practitioners. In fact, they tried to break up teams.
Yep.
Wow.
But they realized, and I think Derek and I were one of those synergistic teams where it was 1 + 1 = 4. Because we exaggerated our good qualities in each other. You know?
I find it valuable working. My mom's my partner, right? So like her and I trade on and off depending on what client likes who better, or like what personality
Evan and I
works
right now
better.
are the same thing. There are clients that for some reason they don't register with me as well as they register with Evan, and vice versa. And there's no ego in it. You know, if I meet somebody and I initiate a relationship, but somehow they resonate with Evan better, they're more than welcome to work with Evan, with the same person. Just he's a little taller and more handsome than me. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. So you know, they'll interview, and then these new agents or new prospective agents, what they call them, they'll say, you know what, I like this guy and this guy. Maybe I'm not hiring right now. Evan and I are really picky with who we bring on because our time is very valuable. If I'm spending time with a junior agent on a small deal, that means I'm not out generating larger deals. When I train somebody, I lose a substantial amount of money. So the only way I'm going to take my time and Evan's time, we both do, is to know that that's the kind of person that I want on my team. And it took a lot of years of trial and error to figure out the type of human being that we want to train and we know is going to last.
And get the personality that sticks around too, right? Like
that's a very good point, because I tell people, look, I can teach a monkey, maybe an orangutan, monkeys, but orangutan. Orangutan's a smarter version. I can teach an orangutan all the skill sets in real estate, but what I can't teach them is the personality to connect with another human being. That's the most important thing. And if I can see that in somebody and he's got some relative intelligence, he's going to be great. And so anyway, back to the thing. But so they'll interview with all the senior agents, and they'll resonate with some people. Maybe that person's hiring, and then they'll go to the top manager in the office, which is a non-competing manager. Doesn't do transactions, which is very important with our firm. So you get the support without the competition.
Yeah.
So and then it'll be like a mutual connection. So I mean, we've hired people in the past. Some of our failures, we've had a lot of failures with agents where, okay, this guy's got a great set of skills. He's been in commercial real estate before, residential before. He's got a family, good. He's really got to make money. Those tend to fail because it takes time to make money in commercial real estate. It takes time because it's not cold call, get a listing, sell, burn it through, and then you're done with that client for 20, 30 years. You want repeat business. You want relationships, and it takes time to build relationships. Evan and I listed a property last week with somebody we met 10 years ago.
Wow.
10 years of value given. So we have to have somebody
It's a long game.
It's the long game, but you know, if you take your income every year over the course of 10 years and then you divide it by 10, you're going to crush it in this business. If you take it over the first 2 years, you're going to run for the hills.
Yeah.
So it's a longevity game, and it's a skill set gain game. So,
and that's more so in commercial than it is in residential in what I do, right? I mean, the sales cycle is much longer on the commercial stuff that you guys are doing. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're hitting the same players. It's non-emotional for the most part, you know, and there's competition for those people. They're easy to find. You know, private capital is easy to find if you know how to do it. Finding these individuals, they own buildings, and that's something else. These new agents, they got to come on a team. Typically, they got to build out their own database. They got to farm their market. We teach them how to go building by building, block by block, take pictures of every building, find out who owns the building, get their email address, their phone numbers, cold call them, get a meeting, show them how to, improve their building, raise their rents, cut insurance, whatever they can do to add value to the client first without asking for anything. So
that's the value add of a team like yours, right? You guys have been doing this for so long. You know all the buildings. I've had discussions with you guys like, hey, I'm looking at this property. You're like, you already knew the owner, you knew the asset like very well, right? Because you guys have been
rents, everything.
Yeah, you know everything, right? In that space, because you've been working on building your database for so long, and you're in Palm Beach County, Broward County, and other counties, and it's just like you've covered every multifamily building.
Evan's a walking apartment guide for Palm Beach County and Broward.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth.
It is the truth, actually.
Even if I'm
Evan knows everyone.
Yeah. Even if I'm working
with the help
on,
of Daniel, of course.
Yeah. Even if I'm working on another project elsewhere and you guys aren't involved, I usually give you a ring and just like say, hey, what do you think?
Definitely.
We talk quite a bit. And that's how I met you initially. Evan, I think I met you in 2014, 2015.
I forget, did Evan cold call you?
He cold called me. Yeah.
See, this is how
It's
it
working.
works.
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a
Exactly how it
testament
works.
to that for sure. We talked on the phone, and then we met. You gave me a proposal, me and Connor, and then we just continued the relationship. He continued to stay in touch, and now here we are.
Yeah.
So I always attribute to this too. If you're a single guy, how do you meet a girl? Well, Evan was single and you two met. So,
Thanks, buddy.
I'm just saying.
It's
Kind of the same thing.
It's a game of numbers, is
Right,
what it
right.
is. Like it's the
Definitely.
dating analogy. You might have to go and on 20 dates and talk to 400 girls to get to the 20 dates. To then 20 dates whittle it down to maybe 1 or 2 girls, and then from there,
Correct.
maybe you choose 2, maybe you
But it goes in
you
many
choose
ways.
one. You choose one. If my wife is listening,
Just one. But if you're a creep, it takes you longer to meet a girl. So the same in real estate. If you're true, you're honest, and you're forthright, and you just try to add value to clients.
clients sense that.
Yes, and they're going to sense it. They're going to, just like a woman can sense a creep from a mile away. The clients can sense a disingenuous broker from a mile away.
Yeah,
because they've been doing it long.
And Eva, tell us about having the I call it a Rolodex that shows how old I am. I grew up in the 80s, but having a number of different vendors that you can refer on to people, because I know as a property owner myself, multifamily owner, that's extremely valuable when I can turn to, let's say, you guys and ask, you or Daniel, hey, what's a good paving person, a great insurance person, a great whatever it is. Even sometimes you'll have handymen, or what does that value look like? I'm assuming other clients appreciate that.
Definitely. And it's extremely valuable. Just to Daniel's point earlier, being able to add the value without just coming in looking, hey, I'm just looking for a listing.
Sounding salesy.
Right. I have a buyer, calling someone, I have a buyer for you ready to sell. Whereas our approach and the company's approach in general is, like you said, adding value, whether it's through years of experience and being out in the market and talking to people. Okay, we know who the best insurance agents are. We don't sell insurance, but we know who the best insurance agents are. Mm-hmm. Like you said, even the best inspection companies, pest control companies, even down to, things along those lines. And we learn a lot of that stuff through the clients that we meet.
The clients tell you who are their great vendors and who maybe they're missing and that are not so good, and you 100%. Complement their
right, because we're
areas that they need help in.
Definitely, because if we're referring someone and they're not doing a good job, that looks just bad on us, because then that client or investor is calling us and saying, why the hell did you refer this person to me? They're a joke. They're awful, you know what I mean? And then we got to,
that can make you look bad too. So you want to vet them and make sure they really are good, of course.
For sure, right. And that's, more so what I was referring to. But that's how we've built the business over the years, is really just finding ways of adding value like that, and then people appreciating it over time. And then, like, we mentioned earlier, a lot of times we're doing business with people we met 5, 10 plus years ago, or just now, starting to transact with them. And that's just from building years of trust, from adding the value of having that, huge network of different, vendors or contractors, et cetera.
Great.
So imagine you're a new agent, you're cold calling people, and this client is having a problem and you don't know how to solve it. You don't have anything valuable for him. Mm-hmm. But after 17 years, the amount of problems commercial real estate owners have aren't really original. They're repetitive. So you learn how to help people solve problems that they're having.
Right.
And you bring in, like you said, outside vendors and different scenarios, because when you're talking to hundreds of investors, seasoned investors every week, then you're having genuine value add conversations with them, and you're uncovering problems that they're having with their real estate in that given moment, and the solutions they might have come up with that you didn't know about. And they're telling you, because you know what? A really seasoned guy that knows what he's doing and he's successful, he's generous. He's generous. I mean, he's going to share. He's going to tell you how he's doing things because he's proud of that he's saving money here, cutting corners there. And so we pick that up and we learn it. And then we teach other people. So why not just give that away for free to another investor?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, there's no reason to charge for advice or information. So then imagine 17 years deep into real estate, and you've solved so many different problems over so many years that you just learn all the little things. And not a day goes by, or maybe a month goes by that I don't learn something new from an investor. Like, oh, I didn't know that. That's kind of cool because I pay attention.
Yeah.
My job isn't just to market, sell properties. My job is to solve problems for the 10 years prior to marketing, listing that property, to gain the trust.
Well, it's kind of funny how I originally got connected to you is I met Derek Gibbs, your partner. This was probably, gosh, I don't even know, 12 years ago, something like that, at a cigar bar over here in Boca Raton. I'm sitting on the
I remember him telling me he was so excited that he met you.
So I'm sitting there at the bar. We're having a drink.
He really was. He was, Larry. He was.
We're having the best time. We were just talking about random nonsense. And Derek, as we all know, was larger than life, and his energy and amazing and always making people laugh. And I'm cracking up. And then it would only came later in the conversation towards the end about, so what do you do? And I think he asked me that. And I said, I'm a real estate attorney. And at that time, one of our major focuses, which still is our landlord tenant law, and we do 300 or more evictions per month, and low cost evictions. He said, "Give me your card right now." He's like, "So many of my clients, they need help, and there's a lot of evictions that they need." And this was, especially when the economy was still recovering. This is 2012, 13.
I remember those days.
Yeah, and it was still not a great time. Even though even today in a good economy, there's
you were one of those
aces
evictions up our sleeve. We were handing to some really good people, and I remember.
But my point in saying all this is that I became one of those referral vendors that you all would refer to and still do, and I appreciate all that. But it goes to show that there is this need out there that a lot of these multifamily owners, they do need a whole variety of different referrals from your team, and it's great, and it does provide value. So.
Imagine having like a group of like 500 seasoned investors in a room, and that you can pick up all the best practices from all of them, distill them down into one little space, and then hand it out to everybody. That's what we try to do.
It's huge. It really is.
And in your business specifically, you can't just easily go on the internet like you can in my business, where it's like, and get a lot of the answers for residential questions, like, this is what the home traded for before. This is the information regarding this property. It's much harder to figure it out in your world, right? If you're on the outside trying to look in, you can't really know, this is what the rents are for this property. Everything is much more difficult. It's not like easily reported. And you guys are talking to all these owners, like you just said, all the time. So you know the answers about all this stuff that you just cannot find on the internet, period. So you need a resource like you guys in order to make good, sound decisions if you're an investor, for sure. It's taken me, 12 years to get to a point where I own assets in most of the markets that exist here in Palm Beach County. So I can kind of answer the question of what's the rents or what's the cost to operate these things. But I still don't talk to as many people as you guys do, and I don't know all the answers. So that's why we're always having conversations. I'm learning so much from you guys, and I own almost 100 apartments, right? And so I learn from you guys regularly because of that.
And their database, to your point, their database of rent comps and building comps that are out there is unmatched. And when they put their amazing offering memorandums together, it's 80 pages or whatever it is, and it's filled with sure, there's some boilerplate info in the beginning about the city or the town, and maybe at the very end.
My picture's a much younger version of what I look like now.
But it's got some chock full of really detailed proprietary information in there about rents. And for example, and you know this, Larry, as to what you're talking about, you may own a property in, let's say, downtown West Palm Beach, and 7 miles away, you own a property in North Palm Beach, and those rents are going to be completely different. And you don't know, as a multifamily landlord, you might be renting your properties out for way too little. You may think that, okay, you can only get $1,500 for 2 1s in this area, when in fact, just the other day, Daniel, I asked you this question, and you said I bought a triplex from you in Fort Lauderdale. You said I need to be bumping those rents at least $300 per month based on the comp. So periodically, I do reach out to you for these things, and it's amazing info, and
it's over 10 grand a year.
Yeah,
just so you know.
There you go.
That's worth over $90,000 of value.
Right there.
And, and back to your point earlier, you're very generous with your information. You guys are willing to talk all the time. You're accessible. It's
the more money you make, Larry, the more transactions you do, the more business we do. So we're very incentivized for you to be very successful.
Look at that sales right there, guys.
See, I had to turn it on for like 10 seconds, but I'm back to normal now. I promise.
We need to bottle that.
I'm sure what was
back to normal, back to casual Daniel now.
I got this warm feeling coming over me that I just wanted to list my property today. I don't know what it is. Oh man! So let's move on to some lead. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to hear. Sure. I want to hear more about just the team stuff, because we moved away from it. So you mentioned, hey, today, the people we've hired or brought on, we've had more better experience with than before. And so, what have you learned in building your team over the years?
I'm going to be blunt with this.
Yeah,
I won't hire a guy that's married with kids, that has a mortgage.
I know, and we've talked about that. So explain why.
I won't hire somebody with probably very unlikely with prior residential or commercial experience. You come with bad habits. The fee splits at our firm are brutal, okay? Because you split with the firm, you split with the team. But we do so much volume that you can make so much more money. Imagine doing 1 deal a year, you get 100% of the commission. Then imagine doing 7 deals where you get 30%. Now your name is out there and everybody knows you. So your brand grows significantly faster by doing 7 deals in 1, plus your skill set grows too.
Especially if you're a new guy. I mean,
100%,
how else are you going to learn this
100%,
stuff?
Exactly. Your splits
go up in time.
As you prove that you're doing what you're doing and you're making money and things like that. Because remember what I said earlier, if I'm training you, I'm losing money. Okay? So what we focus on now, and what we found it very successful, is younger guys have a lot of energy. They want to succeed in life. They live at home with their parents. They have a cheap rice beater car, and they have very low monthly expenses, because you could go a year without making a nickel. Now, granted, both of the guys on our team now that have been there they're about a year and a half, they're doing very well. Both have made $30,000 to $40,000 their first year. One is geared up to make 6 figures this year.
That quick.
Great. Yeah. Great.
Because he's doing everything we tell him to do, and he's executing, and he's learning quickly.
Work ethic.
Great work ethic.
Yep.
You have to be consistent,
hard to find.
right? Totally. Yeah,
These
consistency with those phone calls and all that. So the primary lead source for you guys is dialing and building relationships. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yep.
And you have a pretty good internal database, right? That you built, the firm has built, or is that just a team by team database?
Team by team has built the database within Marcus Millichap.
So you don't share information, let's say, with another multifamily team that's
never.
Okay, got it. Okay.
You know,
so you're on 2 different islands.
The 2 most valuable piece of information a client has is his cell phone, which they very rarely ever change anymore because you can take your number to different carriers, and their personal email. Now, if they share that with you, it's gold. You don't give that to anybody. For one, you don't want anybody cold calling your client. Let them call the office and get through the secretary like I did for 7 years to get a cell phone, all right? Let them figure that out.
So hiring, that's interesting, and how you built your team. And so you got 2 guys now that are working with you.
One started when he was 19 years old.
Nice.
Okay.
So these are blank
One's
slates.
out of college.
You want blank slates, clean slates. Yep. They could have been like you, a bartender, or someone like you living at home with their parents at 30, 31, or whatever it was. And that's a preferred candidate. You want someone that you can mold, that you can train, build, grow, not someone who comes in with bad habits, right? That's what I'm hearing.
And that's different from maybe other businesses. Some people want experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is a different thing, and I think you touched on it. You want guys that can hang in there for the long term, not make a whole bunch of money short term, because it just doesn't happen right away in your business.
Yeah, I would get people from other firms. Well, when I was in this firm, we used to do this way. I'm like, how'd that work out for you? Why are you here then? Yeah. You're here because you want to make money and you want to do it right. So listen to what I'm telling you to do. This is a proven way to do it. I'm a proven example. Evan's a very good proven example. I mean, I didn't move back in with my parents, but I moved in with 2 roommates. Okay, I cut costs, so you do whatever you have to do. But I sit agents down and I say, look, you have to understand the cost structure of you being here. Yeah, you're not making any money right now, but the firm to sit you down on that desk on average pays $56,000 a year. All the things it provides you to sit you in that desk. And then I'm spending my money on you. You're 6 figures in debt every year you sit here, but you don't have to repay that debt. All you have to do is make yourself money. This is an opportunity, a very big opportunity.
Yeah, you can look at it like going to college, frankly, right? Yeah.
One of the guys, River Rhodes, who's very promising on our team, he went to college, real estate, got a degree in real estate, I think real estate development or finance or something like that.
Finance and real estate.
I learned more. He said, I learned more here in 6 months than I did my entire college career.
Without a doubt.
It's like I had no idea this is what real estate worked.
Yeah.
Underwriting, numbers. He's like, they never taught us any of this.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many investors out there doing so many unique, cool things, different stuff that he's having conversations about, trying to figure out on a daily basis, and then working with you guys.
Yeah.
The real-time knowledge is
invaluable.
Dylan, the 19-year-old who looks like he's 13, he's
he's 20 now. He's almost 21. He's almost 21.
He's almost 20. Okay,
He can almost drink.
Yeah. He's almost 21. He's still a little boy in my eyes. But he had a full ride to multiple colleges. He had like a 4.6 GPA. Says, I'm not going to college. This is where I know I can be successful, make money.
Smart guy.
I love that. That's interesting.
that.
That's really cool. Follow your passion. That's
a whole different discussion. I think we're going to start to see more of that in the future, as college debt becomes much more.
But imagine this kid at the age of 24, 25, when most kids are graduating college with a degree that, I don't know what the degree is, but chances are you need more education to get a good job.
Yeah.
And he's 6 years deep into real estate.
Making multiple 6 figures, in his mid-20s. That's a possibility.
With
possibility with his trajectory,
course,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's,
within
if
5,
he
6 years.
continues doing what it is, it's a definitely going to happen.
I often think about that too, because I was an engineer for many years working for General Electric before I started my own thing.
I was a bartender.
Yeah. So there you go. So we were
this a lot sooner.
doing something else, and if I had started in the real estate space in 2010 as an example, instead of being in totally different, it'd be a different situation right now. I'd have a lot more a lot
money
more under my back.
I'd have a lot more money.
Your bank account would be ridiculous.
Why are people even listening to this podcast?
I think I'd be
Say it again,
retired.
Jaron.
A lot more money.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
So you guys learned how to hire over the years. What other experiences, hurdles, tough situations have you dealt with that you feel like you've overcome in building this business?
I think
I'd say just
take it, Evan.
Yeah, life in general, right? Things, whether it's a health issue that pops up, whether it's, something personally, family-wise, things along those lines. It's just, you never know, to a certain extent, right? Surprises happen. And those are some of the challenge, I think, just on the, surface level in terms of what you have to go through. And so I think just being consistent and not letting those things just completely throw you off track, which can be hard sometimes, right? We all have certain things that we're working through potentially and what have you. So
because you have tell me if I'm wrong here, but you have a weekly, I'll call it a grind. I mean, maybe at this point you're just so used to it. It's just your normal work day or work schedule, but there's certain times where you're on calls, right? I mean, do you schedule, hey, on these days I'm supposed to just be outbound calls, not taking incoming calls.
Don't walk in my office. Don't interrupt me.
Right. Doesn't matter if your girlfriend broke up with you and you're upset. You got to make the calls, right?
Compartmentalize all your personal problems when you come to this business.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. You can't call your clients and go, hey, this happened to me. And they're like, dude, where's my rent survey?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe they give you a couple days, but
let me go call CBRE.
Hey, I'm going to talk to someone else that's got.
But that's part of being a man. That's part of being, a man anyway. In my, it's just you got to compartmentalize your personal problems and you got to do your business. You got to grind. Yeah. You want to be successful. You can't be a victim in anything.
Yeah.
Agreed. I'd like to call that type of stuff like non-negotiable items in the business, right? So
I like that. I like the way that.
You're making phone calls, and how many hours a week and how many people you're dialing, that's a non-negotiable. Like you have to do that. The world could be falling down around you. We're making phone calls, and that's one of my non-negotiables. Phone calls for my business. Yep.
I'm fascinated by this, so I want to ask one more question on the phone calls. I've brought it up a couple of times now. It's because in my business as a lawyer, almost all of my leads are incoming leads. So, and it would look probably improper. In fact, it's probably unethical for me to be calling, cold calling possible clients or calling multifamily homeowners who might need eviction services or might need closing services. So I'm not used to the cold calling. That's why I find it fascinating, because there's also a fear that almost everyone has, I would say, and I definitely have it, is a fear of rejection. So how do you get over that fear when you're first starting out in the business and you're calling 40, 50, 100 multifamily owners a day, and you're either not getting them to pick up, or they pick up and they hang up on you, or how do you?
The first thing to understand about the fear of rejection is what it's linked to. It's linked to the fear of death.
Okay.
In your mind, in the lizard part of your brain that evolved, being rejected by somebody is the same thing as getting kicked out of the cave and dying in the wilderness alone. So you have to understand that it's an unrealistic fear. That fear of rejection you have, it's unrealistic. Same thing if you go head on a girl, she turns you down, you're not going to die. People aren't going to gather around you and club you to death. It's not going to happen. So it's an unrealistic fear. Walking on the edge of a building and jumping from building to building, that's a realistic fear. Be afraid. But you have to learn how to turn that switch off. There's nothing scary about it. You're just going to get rejected. And what happens is when you get rejected, which you will when you first start cold calling a lot, and if you can't stomach it, it's not for you. But you have to understand that switch. You're not going to die. It's the same fear. Turn it off and move forward. You know, some people face jumping from building to building, they turn that fear off. You can call a stranger and try to get him to talk to you for 5 seconds. But the point of cold calling is get that fear of rejection, fear of death under control, and make the call and just try to add value. But you have to understand when you're cold calling somebody, the burden of the conversation is on you. You can't expect to go, well, how are you doing today? And then have them carry half of the conversation for the first 5 minutes. They're going to be like, who are you? The burden is on you to continue to carry in the conversation, which means you have to have things to offer value to some degree. When you're in that cold call and you're talking and he's not responding much and you're just like, well, how are you having problems with this? Hey, how's the insurance market going for you? You know, I noticed the guy down the street renovated these units and he's getting this much more in rent. How are you getting? Eventually you're going to hit on a subject that's a problem for him or something that he wants to talk about. The moment he asks you a question, well, that's a great question. Let's talk about that. When can you meet?
Amazing.
Because I call that the hook point. The moment he says he's interested in what you have to say because you've kept him on the phone long enough and you've touched on a subject that interests him. And in reality, you're offering value. You actually do want to offer value, but it's much better in person because that's a skill set most people have lost these days, person-to-person contact. It's 5-second, 10-second videos on the phone, emails, Zoom calls. It's very impersonal. I like to look people in the eyes when I'm talking to them because I want them to see my eyes too, because then they're going to trust me. They're going to see the genuine look in my eyes and look on my face.
And if they take the time to meet with you, there's a level of
Always
commitment
value
there from them. Yeah. So you both get value out of that.
I'll add on the cold call side, a lot of it also I think is just accepting that this is how you get started in the business. A lot of people want to find other ways. Well, I'm going to go to networking events and I'm going to send out letters. Well, those things are great, but
just doesn't work.
That's going to take you extremely long time to make. Yeah. Right. It's just a supplement. So accepting that all the very successful agents, brokers in this office that, like you said, are now millionaires from doing this from years and years and, have huge real estate portfolios and all these great things. This is how they get started. Whether you want to believe it or not, you have to accept this is how you really jumpstart your business and, shorten that time frame from being brand new to being very successful.
You got to face thousands of hang-ups and lose my numbers to get to the destination, which is being a millionaire.
I want to tell you one personal story. Okay, one personal story about Derek. Okay, there was a specific client in the marketplace that hated brokers. Derek cold called him one time, and he picked up the phone and he says, "I'm not meeting you. I'm never going to meet you." He's like, "Well, unfortunately, and I want to apologize up front, but I called your wife by accident first because I thought that was your number. And apparently you're going to meet me because we're having a blueberry muffin bake-off at your house next Saturday. And it's not what I asked, but we were talking about muffins, and I make amazing muffins, and she said she makes the best. And he's like, my wife does make blueberry muffins, and they're the best. He's like, well, we're going to find out. And for whatever reason, he did actually call the guy's wife at first, and he had a great conversation with the wife. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was so-and-so. And she goes, oh, no, it's okay. I'm just making some muffins. He goes, well, if you want to talk about muffins. And he met the client, and it's been a lifelong client of his because he just had a way of connecting with human beings like that. If you just, it's one of those things where cold calling is you just detach from what you want and you pay attention to the conversation and you let the conversation guide itself.
Yeah. Derek was the best person I've ever met in my entire life at building trust, relationships, bonds through laughter, through
more of a personal connection,
connections, coming out of left field with responses. And he came from a place of love is what it was. And people could feel that over the phone, and they almost feel loved on the phone. They're like, who is this guy that's love bombing me in a good way? And he was genuine about it. It wasn't love bombing has negative connotations that people take it away. He would never take it away. It was just consistently positive and giving. So that's also
you like me.
Yeah, exactly.
You will love me.
I'm going to suffocate you with my love. Yeah, exactly. No, he was amazing with that. One other thing about your team, and I hate to go backwards just a second, but you mentioned that you have a couple agents, newer agents that work for you. Do you have other members of your team too, support staff as well?
I'm glad you went back to that. We do have an analyst and marketing coordinator. We also have office staff that helps us as well.
Okay.
But we're looking to bring somebody else on the team, but we're very, like I said, we're very picky on who we bring on.
Mm-hmm.
We're also very picky on the timing. I don't want to bring on 3 new agents and then just not have enough time to donate to them because we're spread too thin that way.
It.
We brought on one, we got him started, he got working, he started making a little bit of money. And then we brought the second one on, and now they're both being almost independent in a sense. We still go on all the meetings with them. We still engage with them on every single property, every single thing, because we're solving problems they don't understand. But we want to make sure that before we bring another agent on to train them, that the other ones are almost self-sufficient. We don't want to take away from them. We want to have the amount of time dedicated towards these guys because, like I said, they're coming in making no money for a year. They at least deserve that.
In addition to that, we have capital markets team as well.
Yeah, we have our own debt team as well.
Essentially, an extension or part of our team.
And
we work closely with.
They're fantastic as well. David
I've
Steve
worked with them as well.
Those guys,
We also
very
have
good.
an amazing attorney
Very
that
good
we use a lot for evictions and title work.
Well, I'm blushing now. So I'm speechless. One of the few times I'll be speechless.
Part of the team,
that
Jen.
you'll ever
You just
see.
don't know it yet. You'll be getting your cards in the mail next week.
I love it. So just to wrap up this part of this about your team, let's say there's some realtors out there, or whether they're residential or maybe they dabble a little bit of multifamily, and they want to grow. Let's say they're a sole practitioner. They've been working in the residential real estate market for a while, and they want to build a team under them. Any other advice that you have based on your experiences, or just from a general?
I've talked to a lot of residential real estate agents that have built teams, and I'm not saying that they're not all successful, but I find the same trend that I've found in the past with the people I brought on, is they tend to get to the point where their skill set is just good enough to where they think that they don't need their mentors anymore, and they think, well, if I go off on my own, I'll make a lot more money because the splits will go up, and they do that and they fail. Not because they're not competent, but because they're not getting the volume and the branding that they would as a larger team. So if I list a deal that the other guys get a very low percentage on, they're still on that deal. And their names are on all the marketing, all the packaging, they cold call on it. It's as if they just listed a $15, $20 million deal and they've been in the business for 3 months.
Yeah.
So they miss that. And the advice I would give anybody wanting to build a team is be careful who you bring on, because people will take all that training. Like I said, I lose money when I train somebody.
Time is money.
And they'll leave. And so
time is money.
it's like almost an investment I make in somebody. So if I'm going to make an investment in somebody, I want to make sure I get a return. But again, a synergistic team that works really well, interdependent, which means 1 + 1 = 3, not 1 + 1 = 2. You want that. So if you can train these guys from the beginning that the value that you're giving them is going to be there forever, and it will, because a good team can take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
You get a solid 5 guys on a real estate team, you can conquer a market. I mean, you can crush a market. You can crush all your competition with a good, close-knit team. I'm talking about a team that isn't going like, well, I can make more money over here if I leave. If I do this behind this and do that. No.
Yeah, makes sense. What about you, Larry? Because you
I
have your own
totally-
real estate team. Is this resonating with you?
Totally. I totally agree with this. I think I think just the, like you just said, say you have 5 killers, right? And those 5 killers are all branding the same, right? I mean, just that alone is hugely impactful, especially in the resi space, because you're everywhere now.
Yes.
Versus like you're maybe a fifth of that or less than a fifth of that, right? Because obviously the synergy.
Now you're like everyone else.
Yeah, you're exactly. So because you're everywhere now, you're generating way more lead traffic, way more credibility because of that itself. And my mom and I together, we've been able to conquer certain areas of Boca here because of that, or become the dominant agent. We'll call it dominant agent in certain areas of Boca because she's picking up some, I'm picking up some. And then together we're branding all that as one, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are everywhere all the time." And it's like, yeah, well, we're both working together, and we're creating that synergy, that synergistic effect. That's one value add piece of it. I think there's so many more pieces to that too, like not just from generating listings in business, but also just the digital presence. Now you have 2x or more than 2x the amount of volume that's being pushed into.
That's it. Right there. It's the volume and the branding.
Mm-hmm.
When people see your name on 20, 30, 40, 50 listings, and here's a $10 million, $8 million, a $4 million deal. Man, this guy is everywhere. I remember this. What really hit me is when we first formed our team. It was 7 months into forming the team. It was Derek, myself, and another guy by the name of Tall Friedman. And we met this guy at a property we had just listed, 103 units in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm not going to mention his name, but very big owner. And he was touring the property with Derek and I. And I had cold called him in the past. He basically told me to F off. I don't talk to brokers. He was just one of those like, okay, that guy, I'm never going to get a relationship with that guy. It's just like shut down. He walked the property because he got our flyer and he wanted to see the property. He wanted to buy it. And he walked the property. He said, "Hey, Daniel?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've seen you everywhere. Man, you're out there all over the place, man. It's a really pleasure to meet you." He was enthusiastic with meeting me. And I told him, like, when I used to cold call you used to tell me to F off. Yeah, I know. It's just, I get so many calls. But it was the branding.
Yeah.
He was excited to meet me.
Sure. Yeah. Because they know that you have something they want too.
Right.
You realize, like,
Yes.
they also can want multiple things. Let's say they're just selling their portfolio. They want you because they know that your presence is out there, that you have so many buyers that are coming to you. So that's one thing they could want. Or alternatively, on the flip side, maybe they want to sell that property, 1031 it into a bigger property, and they know that you have so many listings as well.
Right.
So they want to deal with the big dog in the area, and
And the branding is what
out.
gives you that presence of the big dog.
Sure.
It gives you that presence, like that person's everywhere.
And you have 5 people, 5 times the value of transactions to like information to give, right? You've learned maybe 5 times the amount of stuff you would learn in a specific period of time if you were on your own, right? So that's the other thing too. Like with a team, you have more volume, so you can afford a in-service or in-field service rep. So that guy's putting on lock boxes, all these other things that adds value for the customer as well. So like there's like all these additional value adds you get with building a team of killers as well.
Yep.
That's a huge thing. You get back end support, all that stuff that Marcus and Millichap offers you. With my little team, I can afford to do those things too. So we have 3-4 staff sitting in an office all day just handling the back end of stuff, which makes us so much faster, so much more efficient, and that's just value add to the client, right? So
That's exactly what it's like. Like we've had certain situations where we're like, "Dylan, I know this is not a deal in your marketplace. You're making like a fraction of the commission," because everybody makes something off every deal, even if it's a tiny percent, to keep the synergy between the team. "I know this isn't your deal, but can you show it this Thursday?"
that's another thing.
And he'll go do it, and he'll be like, "You got it," because he knows that we'll do the same for him. Any member of the team will do the same for him if he can't do something for his properties. And everybody will help each other.
And then
it's not a matter of, well, I did these open houses for you, I should get more. It's not. There's never negotiations like that because it's understood. It's a synergistic. We all help each other.
Right, and that gives Dylan or whoever it may be the case to, or in the situation, to go out and meet that person. Hey, maybe that doesn't mean they're going to listing right away, but guess what? The next time they pick up the phone to call that investor, "Oh yeah, I remember meeting him. He was nice guy, personable, could add a lot of value." Okay, he's going to take his phone call now, and just helps to everybody on the team grow together that way.
And I think building relationships in your business is on a level even more important than in my business. My business it's important, right? But it's these guys are the same players that are playing over and over.
You're doing
and
2 or 3
over
deals
again,
a year with the same guy.
forever. Yeah.
Helps if he really likes you and he trusts you. That's 85% of commercial real estate business is just getting people to like you.
Yeah. If there would be a lot of people, if they just moved to South Florida, and you ask them the question, how many multifamily buyers do you think they are? They'd probably put out some number that is, some astronomical figure, I don't know, maybe 10,000. It's not that. It is the ones who are at least serious multifamily buyers, especially in the units that are the kind of unit mix that you specialize in, which, tends to be about 20 units or 40 units or higher. It's a small pool.
At any
right?
given time, it's maybe 20, 30 tops.
Yeah.
At any given
That are
time. Some
active.
people
Most
come and go, they
right.
run
Sure,
out of money.
it's a little bigger,
Usual
but
suspects, if you will.
usual suspects, people who are buying and people who are actively selling. Yeah. That's amazing. So we have a lot of investors who will be watching this, and either they're active multifamily investors or maybe they want to get into multifamily investing. So can you give us some tips or some tips on what are some types of multifamily properties they should be looking at, especially in this market, either looking to get into if they're a starter investor, or let's say they're an active investor that, like us, who, I've got 35 units, Larry's got 100 plus units. What are some tips that you have for investors from a general level of types of multifamily? Yeah.
I think the best multifamily properties to buy, exclude A, B, C quality, excuse the quality and the location, is something that's been owned by a mom and pop for 10, 15, 20 years. They probably don't have a mortgage or very low. They know the tenants well, so they haven't really raised the rents a lot. They have personal relationships with the tenants, and they just haven't really maximized the value of the asset because they haven't needed to. They make enough money, they're fine, they're comfortable, but they're retiring now and they want to sell. So if you can get your hands on one of those and then you go in and you renovate, you give this maybe a Class C building, Class A renovations, and you're able to get market rents for it. Number one, you can buy it at X and you can improve it to the point where you maybe 20, 30, in some cases we've seen 40 to 50% increase in rents from renovations, okay? And now your down payment that you put into that, you go to refi a year and a month later and you're getting all of your money out of that building, all of it, and maybe even some extra. And then you still own the building with cash flowing. And it's still going to appreciate over time, because the reality is most people think, cash flow is what you should look for. It's appreciation that's most important. Mm-hmm. They don't call it cash flowing. They call it investing. Can I tell you a quick story?
Sure, please.
Okay. So there was a building that I sold an investor, Evan and I did, in 2010 for $40,000 a unit. And we sold most of his other portfolio, and he came to us and says, look, I want to sell this deal. So we put it on the market. This was Alta Villa. I think you might have seen it.
Yeah.
94 units in West Palm Beach. He wanted 150 a door. This is, right after the pandemic when prices were, in the 130s, maybe 140s in West Palm Beach. And we said, all right, 150 door makes sense. We put it on the market. We got 19 offers, list price offers, and his son convinced him not to sell the property. His son introduced him to a money planner, a financial planner with a master's or doctorate degree in financial planning. And they sat down, went over the numbers. He's like, what are you doing? You're making almost $220,000 a year cash flow with this property. Why would you ever sell it? And he said, Daniel, he's right. I make a lot of money on this property. Why would I sell it? And this is the gentleman's name was Joe Barone, and he was a very intelligent guy. I don't even think he graduated high school, let alone college. But he was a 76-year-old Italian guy, and he was a hardworking guy, still changing toilets, changing cabinets. And he built everything with his hands, scraping with his hands. And we had sold maybe $40 million worth of real estate for him prior. And this was his last big deal. And I was like, Joe, if you sell the building, how much money are you going to net? Probably about $10 million. How long you own the building? 9.5 years, 10 years. Okay. How much money do you say you make every year? 200,000? What's $10 million divided by $10? $1 million. $1 million a year in equity growth. Where'd you make the money?
appreciation.
He was like buying and selling. Like, look, I'm sure this guy with a doctorate degree knows what he's talking about financial planning. He doesn't know shit about what you do. He has no concept of what you do and how you make money. What you do blew his potential return basis through the window. And at the window, you made $10 million. You made $1 million a year in equity growth. That's how you've made your money every single time. The other property we sold you for $15,000 a door, and you sold for $115 a door. Where'd you make the money? When I sold it and bought it. Bingo. You didn't make it from the cash flow. Cash flow is the bonus.
Yeah.
Sold the building. He decided to put it back. He decided to take one of those offers and sell the building. He was like, you know what? You're right. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah. And one of the most amazing aspects of that is every year it's appreciating. It's tax-free, at least until you sell it. And then it can still be tax-free if you use a 1031 exchange
and your debt
to roll
doesn't go
into the
up.
next property. Yeah.
Really, really, really wealthy investors, they'll buy an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They'll take the cash flow or they'll reinvest the cash flow in the property, improve it over time, and then they'll refi it tax-free.
Keep refinancing.
You owe a $10 million building. It's worth $10 million. You have $2 million in debt. You pull out $5 million. You got $7 million in debt. You got $5 million tax-free in your pocket. You don't pay taxes on that. It's free money.
Yep.
And then what happens in 5 years and building's worth $15 million? Yeah, pull out another $3-4 million, tax-free. Wait another 5 years, worth a couple more million. Pull out a couple more million, tax-free.
Yep.
Cash flow is taxed.
While getting depreciation on
That's
your
right.
taxes,
That's right.
27 and a half years, I think it is, depreciation. And so you're writing off all of that income that he's getting, the $200,000 in income, plus I'm sure he's getting income from other sources, and he's writing that off of his taxes.
Not only that, but if he's renovating that building, then he's going to get a lot more of a depreciation reset. He'll reset that depreciation. So if you're accelerating the depreciation on the cabinets, say you're going to renovate 50 of the 100 units, you're going to pull out those cabinets in working condition. You're going to pull out the light fixtures, the baseboards, everything you can pull out of that unit in working condition with the demo, pay a little extra. You pull it out, you have it appraised, you donate it to Habitat for Humanity, you get an extra 45% deduction. Yeah. So you get 145% depreciation on that specific renovations. And then when you renovate, you reset your depreciation for the new schedule.
But I think,
powerful.
Not just saying this because Larry's here, but I think Larry's a great example of how you grow and scale business. I remember when we first met, I think you were doing a lot of like 2-4 unit deals. Then you bought an 8 unit deal. I'm probably leaving out some details and things like that. But I guess what I'm getting at is not being afraid to start somewhere. And it doesn't have to be the most glamorous of
Adam's
properties.
got a good point here.
Right?
Footprint.
Getting a footprint, starting somewhere, focusing on a market. And then growing from there, like to your point of whether you're doing a 1031 exchange, you buy the quad or, maybe a 5-unit, 6-unit and, add value in that. And then maybe you're growing that into a 15-unit building, et cetera. Right. Or you're, taking the cash out from a refi, still owning the property that you have, and cash flowing, but using that capital that you used from the first property that you bought and, growing that and buying another property, right? I think, again, I've seen Larry do that to, where you had when we met, maybe, I don't know what it was. I know at least maybe 8 units, maybe you had 10 or a little bit more, but now, you're around 100 or so, like you said. So, watching
scaling up.
Larry grow and exactly. Scaling up, but just not being afraid to start somewhere and don't think that you're going to start with, the most beautiful property Main in Boca Raton or, off Las Olas in Fort Lauderdale or something like that. You may have to go into a tougher neighborhood.
You got a good point.
And
Get
most people don't go from 0 units to buying a 24-unit complex. How big was the one that you purchased from them? For them?
14.
Yeah,
14 units. There you go. Most people don't go from 0 to 14 units. You go from 0 to maybe buying a duplex or buying a triplex, and then maybe you buy another one, and then maybe you buy. That's kind of what I've been doing. I've been buying triplexes and quadplexes. Then I scaled up to buying 2 sixplexes. And now my next venture, when the time is right and I'm ready, is to go bigger. Go 12 units, 18 units, and 1031.
Become a big time like Larry is what you're saying.
That's it. I'm trying to one day.
That was a perfect property, Larry.
Step in your shoes. I know.
That was the example that I gave too.
At the finish line.
That property was the example I gave too. Like an old mom and pop that owned it forever. They built it.
Right.
You bought it, and you're like, man, they didn't rent it right. They didn't really raise the rents, and you killed it with that deal.
And to put some money into it, though, right?
Yeah, we always. But more cash flow into it, as you were making a comment about, instead of just plowing in an extra $200,000 day one and just like emptying the building and just doing the reno, we turned little by little here and spent the cash flow on renovating.
Holding costs on vacant units is not worth it. Yeah.
It's also, it's just not ideal. It's just not ideal. It's a little risky. Like you have a completely vacant building now. That also gets a little risky because the city starts to get involved, or you get people trying to break into your units when there's nobody living there anymore, right? So like that's not the. We've tried that, and that's how I met Jaron. And I needed attorney
Best
services.
eviction attorney ever.
At an eviction hearing, that's where we met. Yep,
we tried that.
True.
I cleared an 8-unit building, and then I had all these issues come with
the city. Yeah.
And you guys have been in that building too. You walked it with me.
That was a nice building.
Well.
You did a good job with that.
Yeah, after trials and tribulations and spending way more money than we initially underwrote.
We kind of said that. It was like, man, this is too nice for this place.
Yeah.
Well, you said from Class C to Class A.
I was like, this is the Trump Tower in this neighborhood. This is.
Well, I've noticed that, not to get too far off topic here, but when I was some of the multifamilies that we bought maybe 2 years ago in the 2020-21 timeframe, we were able to raise rents significantly without making any improvements. I mean, sure, we'd come in there if they had a complaint about a toilet leaking or something. We were good landlords and we do that. But, the market has been so tight, especially here in this area, in the South Florida area and Florida generally. I don't know if every area in the United States is like this, but we've been able to bump rents significantly and have zero vacancies, more or less. I mean, people do move out once in a while, but when we bought a property, invariably, I would just go ahead within 30 to 60 days and raise rents, and no one left. So
it was a rare phenomenon this last year, maybe 6 months ago, where there were so many prospective tenants and so few units available that literally tenants were like, look, I don't care. Don't renovate it. I don't want to wait. I want to move in right now, and I'll give you the renovated rent.
Most of our tenants who are making offers on these rentals want it tomorrow. Like want to move
because there's
in
nothing.
tomorrow.
There's no place to live down here.
Everybody
It's
has
tough.
this sense of
That's what we're
urgency.
hearing from most investors we talk to.
Yeah. And the other thing I think I've learned regarding just the investment piece and how to think about it is down here, as you mentioned, Daniel, appreciation is the bigger piece of the puzzle when investing. Versus maybe some other parts of the country, values tend to hang the same, but you're maybe getting a 15 cap or something. I don't know, something crazy. I don't invest in other parts.
But in 10 years, you're going to make like 20% increase in value. Like, meh.
Yeah. So because of the population growth, because of the dynamic in Florida and South Florida specifically, that appreciation has been the bigger piece of the puzzle in generating wealth for me personally.
That's the best way, because otherwise you're taxed. Again, you're taxed on the cash flow, but you're not taxed on the appreciation. And when you refi with debt, it's tax-free money. So that's what? 30%? That's a 30% VIG.
And that's how we've grown. That's how I've grown. Just generally is do the refi play, right? Yep. Refi, pull as much cash. And a lot of our deals, I have none of my original cash in that deal.
That's infinite return. We call that infinite return.
So
every deal you make is like infinite return.
So that's it. If you can pull that off, that's awesome. It's not super easy to do it, right?
Sure.
This is not. We're talking like this is easy, but it's definitely not easy.
That's for sure.
And then also around the comment of like just renovations versus or like how to handle a deal when you buy it. To me, it's like always very deal specific. I've got deals where, like we talked about, I've cleared the building and gutted the place to the studs. I got deals like the one I bought from you guys, 14 units, where we did it little by little, made some renos. I've got deals that I've never touched that are terrible. I don't want to say terrible condition, but they're not in great condition, right? And we just left them, and like you can kind of watch the performance of all these different assets here, and it's like super interesting to see how, if you really do the math, because most people actually don't do the math, right? And most people like, yeah, I think the return was X, right? Mm-hmm. If you actually do the math and really look at what you spend versus your return, in some cases, I've found buying the building and doing nothing, at least in this past, like call it 5 years.
It's a very anomaly moment.
Yeah. That's the other thing, right?
That's the best way to do it. What you're doing right now is track it.
Yeah, so you track it and you kind of watch this stuff. It's like super interesting. The past 5 years, I've noticed that like if I didn't touch the buildings at all, and maybe and also this is dependent on if you want to refi, right? So like usually if I'm not going to refi and I'm leaving a building alone, I'll I just won't touch it. I won't put any more cash into it. And recently, those deals have performed really, really well from a cash on cash return perspective, from just a return, just with considering all your costs, right? So every deal is very unique and specific. You can't and that's why I don't think this is an easy game generally, because each deal you buy, you really have to think heavily on what you're going to do there. Yeah.
Well, you're right. It's not specific. It's so like the math on renovations to rents is if you spend $5,000 to renovate, you're getting a $100 increase in rents. You're making a 24% return on that $5,000. Where are you going to get that kind of return? Madoff offered 8 to 10. Okay, so invest in your property, but if you can get that $100 without investing the $5,000, why invest the $5,000?
Exactly.
Just push it down the field a little bit longer, because that refrigerator and that stove and those cabinets, if they're still working and you're still making that 100 because the market's so much stronger, great. But if that property is in an area where the demographic demands those renovations to pay that $100, put that $5,000 in. Most people's like, why would I spend $5,000 just to get an extra $100? It's only $1,200 a year. It'll take me forever. 24%. That's why.
That's a calculation we do all the time right there. Most people don't think about it like that, right? Yeah.
I had an investor. He had a beautiful property, and he said, Daniel, I got $700,000. I want you to help me find a 6 cap. And I was like, well, Bob, I mean, your 1 bedrooms are $750. They're going for 13 now. Yeah, but I don't want to spend the money renovating. So I did the same math in my head. He was like, well, wait, could you write that down for me? Like, you want me to get you a 6 cap, but if you invest a couple $100,000 in your property, you're going to make a 40% return. Wait, what? I don't understand. So he renovated 1 unit, got the rent. He was like, and then I did the math for him. He's like, I made a 46% return. I'm making a 46% return on the investment I put in there. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I think I can do the tile cheaper too. And then if I get, and now he renovated the whole property, happiest he's ever been. He's like, I'm so glad I didn't buy another deal and I invested in my property, making so much more money, and rents go up, quality of tenant goes up too, because they have to make more money. They have to come in with higher deposits. You're getting a better quality tenant that isn't going to trash your unit.
Sure.
Larry, what's the one cost in owning multifamily real estate that you just can't put on a piece of paper? You don't know what it's going to be. When that tenant moves out, you got to paint, or you got to change all the cabinets, all the appliances, because they trash the unit. Is it going to cost you $1,000 for paint or $7,000 to renovate every time that tenant leaves?
Yeah, I've had $8,000 to $10,000. I won't call them normal turnovers, but I wouldn't say we're the tenant trashed it. It's just, maybe we needed to put a new vanity in, and then fix some tiles and fix some things, but it adds up really quick, or maybe putting in a new refrigerator, when you have the list of those items that you're putting in there and it adds up to $8,000 to $10,000, that hurts. That hurts, especially when you have a 2-bedroom unit renting for $1,650. That's, what is that? I don't know, 7 months of rent.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's not fun.
And you guys are getting this anecdotal information and or in person when you're walking these buildings like every day. So you guys are fielding this regularly.
It's ingrained in my psyche.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just to piggyback off the point I just made, because really the conclusion for me is that with my units, I do something slightly different. Yes, I do push rents when they need to be pushed, but I always like to, if I were to ask you, say Daniel or Evan, what in this area, what could I rent these 2 ones for? And you said, well, how much are you renting them for now? And I said $1,650, and you said, well, you can push them to $1,850. I'm going to probably push them to $1,750, because I want as little vacancies as possible and as little turnover as possible, knowing that if my turnover, even a not so bad turnover, is $4,000 or $5,000, that, again,
and that's smart, because you're not looking to sell.
And I'm not looking to sell yet.
Term.
Exactly.
And
So if I was looking to sell, that's different. So do that analysis for me. If let's say I was looking to sell, what type of improvement should I make?
If you're looking to sell and you have a 3-unit building, you get one of those at top market rent.
Mm-hmm.
So you hit the top market pro forma. So then the next buyer that we bring sees that, look, this is the market. I could do it with these easy, and then we make the buyer pay for most of that pro forma before they even do it.
Because that's the market that we're in today. People will pay for that pro forma rent, right?
Yep.
Especially
if you prove it.
Exactly. Proving it's super important because again,
much like the ViewMax that we toured.
Exactly. And again, you can't, it's not super easy to always know the answer of what the market rents are in our world, right? Because it's just not public record everywhere. All these mom and pop owners are not publicly acknowledging what they're getting. You
Unless
guys
you
are,
cold call them, meet them, and help them understand the value of their property. Then you know
Exactly.
everything. And then you can
Exactly.
parlay that into understanding the market.
so that's why proving it's important for one unit. You prove to the investor, boom, that they can
You
get
prove
that.
it. You prove it with an example in the property, and then you also prove it with a detailed rent survey of properties that are surrounding it that are matching those rents with similar renovations.
Yeah. And that's what your offering memorandums have, all that data in there
right.
with charts and tables and
Well, we represent the seller, so our job is to get the seller the highest price with the best possible terms, and we have to do that. We have to back up everything, every assumption we have. We back it up, and if we tell the seller, look, the ViewMax that we toured, the seller wanted me to go to market, and most of his rents were $300-400 below market, and I'm like, I'm not going to get you this price unless you start raising these rents. They were disincentivized from raising those rents because of what happened with the partnership. But now they're like, you want to sell it. You got to get these rents up or I'm not getting this price. You're going to leave $1 million or $2 million on the table. So like, uh-oh. So they started pushing rents. They started, they finished the renovations and the new rentals are getting market rate. And now I can prove it. Now I'm going to get them probably an extra $1.5 million for that property.
yeah,
And they
incredible.
didn't take them, they didn't put in 100,000. They didn't put in even 10,000. They just started raising the rents.
So what about, we've mentioned 1031 exchanges a couple times here. And for those who maybe don't know a lot about 1031 exchanges, just in summary, it's a way for someone who sells a property, instead of paying taxes on those gains that they've made, the profits that they've made on the property, they reinvest that into another property within a very specific time frame and make sure they do that in compliance with all federal law. And they're able to not pay taxes, use all that money to go buy normally something bigger, better, whatever the case may be. How many of your sellers are utilizing 1031s in this market? A lot, or is it common?
Yeah, I think it's very common.
Yeah.
I don't know, say a percentage, but maybe
But a lot.
I was going to say maybe it's
Common.
50 to 70%.
That's a lot. Okay, the majority,
So
maybe.
it's a good amount of time,
Okay.
at least in this market that we're in right now, where, like you said, whether you're growing, whether a lot of times even what we've noticed recently is even just from the standpoint of management efficiency. So from someone, hey, I have 60, as an example of an exchange we completed, investor at 60 one-bedroom units in one property, which was constant turnover, a little bit of a tougher neighborhood, things along those lines. He was like, you know what? I want to move on from this property. He sold that and then bought 44 units that were large 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units on 6 acres of land that could one day be redeveloped. So even though he took a step back in terms of like just number of units and unit count, he's making more cash flow with the property because
More equity growth too.
Right, more equity growth, and then he's got that potential. He plans on holding on to it for the future, and has mentioned multiple times, hey, this is going to be my kid's property if they develop it 10 years from now, because you got, good real estate,
Partial land play. That's
right,
a land play
exactly,
too, yeah.
a covered land play to a certain extent. I mean, he's really buying it for the cash flow currently, but that's just an example of an exchange that you don't have to constantly, it's not just all about growing the number of units, right?
Sure.
Just from a
Different ways to structure that.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And investors are
They find
savvy,
value. They're finding value in different ways.
moving the chess pieces around, as
There
we
you
like
go.
to say.
This is a
right?
great quick story. This is one of Evan's best clients. Okay, his name is Joel Perez. I'm going to tell the Joel Perez
know
story.
Joel. Great
if
guy.
you're, if you're
Yeah.
looking, we love you.
I love,
You're a brother to me.
Love you too. Great guy.
And we made a lot of money with Joel, and he's trusted us for many years. 7 years ago, Evan cold called Joel Perez. He owned 14 units in Coral Springs, and he sold that property, and we 1031'd him into 60 units. He didn't want to buy it. We had to scream at him to get off the plane to sign this addendum, or he would have lost the deal. And he got off the plane. Derek screamed, "Get off the plane, Joel!" So he exited the plane before it left, and he caused a big commotion. And he had to sign this document, because if he would have landed, he wouldn't have got the deal. Got the deal. 2 years after owning it, refinanced it, bought another 46 units from us, all 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Held both of those, sold it, bought the 44, bought another 64, bought another 33. So from 14 units using the 1031 method and a little bit of outside capital and refinances, he's parlayed 14 units into over 200. He just closed on a 14 unit and another 12 unit with us too.
Yep,
A 16 unit and 12 unit
Yep.
offshoots.
Amazing.
Little deals he's picking up,
Right.
renovating, going to flip.
They're close to the other larger properties, so it's a nice addition, things along those lines.
Amazing.
I mean, granted, he did all the work, the real heavy lifting,
Yeah.
but we became an integral part of his team. He used our debt team. He uses our insurance. He uses our inspectors. He uses, a lot of the things that we offer. And he was scared when he was selling that 14 unit building. He wasn't sure if it was the right move. You know, should I hold on to it? You know, it's worth $2 million. You say it's worth 2.5, but it could be worth 3 in 5 to 10 years. So he could make an extra 500,000 in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But in 7, his portfolio is worth 60 million.
Wow. He could have stayed playing small ball, but he stepped up into the big leagues. And
1030. The more of the story is
1031.
1031s are risky because it's got a time crunch. But if you have a really good team of agents like Evan and I have been, and Evan especially to Joel, we create a lot of opportunity for you, and we make things a little simpler for you, and we take a lot of the risk out of it. One of the strategies with the 1031 is when you're selling a property, you start looking when that buyer is 30 days in. He's passed his inspection. He's approved the inspection period. He's going for the financing, or if even it doesn't have financing. If you're a good real estate agent, there's no financing contingency. And then you can already start looking. Sellers will take you seriously. So you got 30 days before you close.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't understand 1031 exchanges, is once you close, you have 45 days to identify and a total of 6 months to close. So the 45 days comes quick. If you don't have anything in front of you, you start looking at day 1, you get screwed.
That's not the
you
move.
start.
Right,
There's 2 methods to extend that. We can extend it by 30 days by simply, as the seller, and if you market a property properly, you get multiple offers, which is what we do. Competition. Okay, Mr. Buyer. Now, let's say you're the seller, and now your agents are going to the buyer saying, look, Mr. Buyer, we're going to award you this deal, but the seller's demanding a right to extend the closing only by 30 days with a 2-week notice. Boom, there's another 30 days on top of the 45. Plus, you start looking after the inspection, which is 30 days before closing. Let's say you get 2 weeks into looking, we have no prospects, you're nervous, there's nothing you're excited about. Click, there's a 30-day extension. Click, you get another 30 days to keep looking. So now when you click that inspection with a 15-day notice, you're 45 days from closing now.
Yeah, amazing.
So you get the 45.
So you've got the buyer locked up, but what you're doing
Correct.
is you are being able to kick the can down the road on that first closing.
Unilateral right to extend.
Yep.
Sellers.
So that you have additional time to find the property. What would you say on average? And I know every deal is different. It's hard to kind of think of all the deals that you do. How long does it take someone who wants to do a 1031 to find the next property in your experience? And I know every deal's different, every client's different, but someone who's aggressive, and are you normally able to locate something for them within 30 days, or do you sometimes need the 60 or even a 90-day time frame?
I think it's the same with everything in life. If you're not really looking for something, it's not just going to pop up in front of you. Oh, this is the perfect deal. I wasn't really looking, but there it is. That never happens.
Got it.
When you have something heavy on your shoulders that you have to get done, you're kicking down and opening every door. That's usually, if somebody follows some of the strategies we put in place, representing them on the sale, we have a 100% success ratio in placing them in a property that they're happy with so far.
Good.
And a lot of that comes out, not to throw it back to say the investor, but a lot of that, to Daniel's point, comes back to how involved they are.
Yeah.
We've sold properties recently to where that seller is just very nonchalant, about finding the right property, or we'll send them. Maybe they're exchanging. They want to get out of, say, multifamily and maybe exchange into a net lease property, which a lot of apartment owners do as they get older. Right,
sure.
right. So what I'm getting at is we'll send them, and we'll work in collaboration with the other agents in our office that specialize in single tenant deals, but we'll send them 20, 30 possible deals, and we don't get any feedback, so it's hard to find that right fit for that person. So a lot of it, again, to Daniel's point, is also just that.
They need to be desperate. They need to understand the consequences that if they don't locate that property and they close within the 45-day time frame, then they're liable for all the taxes on their gains, which could be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And the depreciation.
Right? Yeah, and
so some of these
they have to pay back the depreciation.
They've owned their property for 20 years. They've fully depreciated, and they have the taxes. There's, in some cases, we've come across zero net profit. None.
Wow.
Everything goes to taxes on a long enough time frame. So that 1031 becomes even more important.
Wow. Yeah.
Or just don't sell it. Keep it. Put it in a trust for the kids. But the point is that we have to have difficult conversations with sellers sometimes. It's a come to Jesus moment. Like, look, we've sent you multiple deals. We're getting no feedback from you. And sometimes we got to go, look, here's what you're going to owe in taxes. Are you prepared to write a check for $780,000 in 17 days.
That'll make them desperate.
Yeah.
Right. Lights the fire a little bit.
But no, it's the same thing with people you love and you care about. You tell them the truth and you have difficult conversations with them. If you're scared to have those difficult conversations with people, you're not doing them a service. You're actually doing them a disservice. You're lying to them by your absence of knowledge and your absence of advice. So, the people that we work with, we tend to care about. Joel, care about you. No, Joel's become like a brother to us. He's become a good friend over the years, and I want him to be successful. So, we have had difficult conversations with Joel too, and he listens to us, and he knows when we're being serious. It's funny, Evan, he resonates with Evan much better than me, but he knows. Evan calls him like, "Hey, Joel, I've got Daniel on the phone." He's like, "Oh man, I'll sit down." All right.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
You're the heavy.
Daniel,
Yeah, the serious,
you're the
serious talk.
Yeah.
The bad cop. You're bad. Daniel's
Right,
bad
right.
cop.
What happened? What's wrong? Jesus, what do I have to do now?
That's great. Well, in every partnership, you have
It
to have
goes
a
the
good
same
cop
way.
and a
There's some
bad cop.
conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, Evan's here.
Oh, you
I
always
just sit
gotta-
down. Jesus. All right. Daniel, what's wrong?
Happens the other way around. Which it's happened more recently now as I've gotten more experience. I'm like, I remember when I was never the bad cop, but
The
you get a little
heavy.
more experience now. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I'm the one that's coming in and having like the real, serious, difficult conversation.
Daniel made you
as
put
Daniel
on your
said.
big boy britches.
Yeah, yeah,
Bubble-
exactly, exactly.
Isn't this like the bubble of trust? Isn't this the trust tree?
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
That's great. Well, and just to wrap up the 1031 conversation, I'm based on what I'm seeing with my closings, and I'm guessing it's similar in your market, that you've been seeing a lot of buyers coming in from out of state with
yes.
1031 money from New York, California.
So it used to be like 20, 30% of the buyers from New York, California, Jersey. Now it's 50%.
Wow.
They're all coming to Florida. A lot of money coming
A lot
to
of
Florida.
money
Yeah, a
flowing
lot of
in.
1031 exchange. I think that's what's still fueling the demand given the interest rates and insurance.
I think so too. So, and for those of you who don't know, we've seen a significant bump in, of course, everyone knows interest rates have gone up, but also significant cost increases in insurance here in the state of Florida for a variety of reasons we won't get into today. But yeah, just like you said, we'll see folks coming in, buying properties here, multifamily or even residential properties for pretty large prices, pretty high prices because they're trying to get their money out of other states for, again, reasons we won't get into. But we've been blessed here in Florida with some of that money inflows. And like you said, where maybe other markets in the country are going down 10, 15, 20% in real estate value, we've been holding pretty steady here in Florida.
That's
So,
Especially South Florida.
Those interest
Especially South
rates,
Florida.
to touch interest rates and insurance, that's the biggest problem with sellers getting top dollar right now. And the agents that don't know how to solve that problem, that have deals on the market, they're falling apart left and right, falling out of contract. They can't sell them. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to solve those problems, but we do.
I've talked to a lot of lenders that lend in your world, and they've made that comment. The first thing they've told me is make sure you check your insurance because they're sensitive to it because they keep losing deals over it. Right, to your point. So
We've
that's
solved a
real
lot of
thing.
we've solved a lot of those problems for majority of the properties. Some
Yeah.
you're screwed.
Yeah. But if you don't have the right context to solve those problems, then that's.
I mentioned this the other day that you introduced me to Jerry Katz, amazing guy, insurance guy here. And one of my properties, my insurance was going up from about $9,000 to $18,000 in insurance. With his introduction, Jerry's got it back down to about $10,000. So saving me, a bump that was going to be 100% increase back down to almost where I was before.
Some cases that completely destroys your cash flow.
Sure. Yeah. That would
30 to
hurt it.
60,000 wipes out your cash flow that year.
Yeah, that would definitely hurt it. So it's been great to have those resources again. What are you? Let's kind of shift gears here and talk about the market in general. We're sort of alluding to the market. What is your sense of the market right now, where we're at here in April of 2023, here specifically in South Florida? What are you seeing?
Still a lot of buyer demand, like you were mentioning, touching on before, buyers coming from other states that want to, look at Florida's business friendly.
It's the Florida factor, we
right,
call
the
it.
Florida factor, exactly. It's a great way to sum it up. So the demand has been strong. Properties that are priced just even somewhat appropriately are still getting a lot of activity. Properties in good locations are getting a ton of activity. We saw that as an example recently as a property we brought to the market. We thought it was on the aggressive side, but it's has some upside and good location. We got 5 list price offers, within a couple of weeks. So I think that speaks to, again, just the demand that's still there. Right. Obviously, just in general, to sum up my
One over list price offer too.
Right. Went over list price, but
Great.
some of my thought here is that obviously there's been some challenges with the interest rate and insurance. So, but thankfully the motivated sellers, still have equity in their property. Maybe even they've only owned for 5 years. I say only, but in that 5 years, they're at the point of where they thought maybe it would take them to get to that value in 10 years.
Sure.
So for specific motivations, those are the sellers that, the deals that are getting done, sellers that have a legitimate motivation and reason to sell, or whether it's they want to grow, or they're, another issue that they're working through, or what have you, or they're just ready to retire, type of thing. So, there's some, some speed bumps, but thankfully we're in South Florida, a little bit insulated from some of that.
Part of the Florida factor is net capital migration. When you look at the amount of money coming to Florida, I think last year was $23.8 billion of net capital migration. Texas was second with like 7.3.
It's real money. Yeah.
You've seen it, Larry, in your business. You've seen people like, could you find me like a $4 million house on the water? Because I'm tired of this place. I'm locked down. I can't use my pool. And
there's a significant amount of wealth here, right? More than I've seen in. I grew up in New Jersey. Like this is a different world. Completely different world down here.
It's like the new New York and new San Diego, I think, is what it's going to turn into. Like new San
so that's
Diego.
An interesting perspective, and I want to hear more about that. Have you guys had like buyers kind of shocked at pricing and costs when you deal with buyers, or are most of these buyers
Some
pretty well read on the topic?
Some, I'll take VMAX for instance. We have a guy that says, "Look, I think it's worth $13 million." I'm like, and I'm really active. I've got a lot of money, and it's listed for 18. I'm like, look, I've got offers millions and above that. So there's something wrong with your underwriting. Share your underwriting. There's some things there's some mistakes you have to make, because if you can approach the Florida market like that, you're going to miss every single deal you look at.
Right. Yeah.
So let's correct that underwriting, or correct your expectations, and then you're going to be successful.
Maybe he needs to buy a building in Indiana, or Nebraska,
Right.
if he's looking for cash flow and low prices.
We get it. I'm looking for an 8 cap or 10 cap. I'm like, good luck, not your guy.
Not your guy.
I don't sell 10 caps for my sellers.
Right.
Yeah.
Not me.
The most aggressive buyers right now are looking forward, as opposed to a lot of times some of the local investors, we'll call them, that have been in the market for such a long time. I could have bought that for $75,000 however many years ago. Whereas that, that
it paralyzes them.
Right, for sure.
Them.
Yeah. And then they end up not making any moves or growing and things along those lines. But
making a good point.
But that buyer that's coming into the market and saying, hey, with rising rents and all the growth in the area, you know what? If I get this to an 8 to 10% cash on cash return in 12, 18, even 24 months, great. I deferred my taxes from my other sale and all the other great reasons of owning real estate, right? So those have been, those have definitely been helping in terms of moving the needle with regards to prices,
I battle that personally. It's like, oh my gosh, we saw that we were bidding on this
right.
100 a door. Now it's 150 a door, or whatever the numbers are. And it's like, so you just, for me, and I'm sure for you too, you just kind of have to reset expectations, understand the market, really get a good, healthy knowledge of what's going on, and then make the decisions. Because otherwise, we'll never buy again.
Buy again.
Yeah.
It's a paradigm shift, and you have to shift your brain and your thinking to you can't go even back 2 years ago, even to 2020, 2021 prices were not there, and I don't know if we'll ever be back there again. In fact, I hope not. That would take a depression to get us back to those prices.
Sure.
So I remember Derek and I and Evan were selling buildings to Joe Cohen, who was a very good client of ours at the time and had become a very close personal friend, married my assistant. So
he's a matchmaker too.
That's what I promise all of my clients.
When you ever get tired of multifamily,
beautiful blonde wives and successful buildings. No, but
we'll throw in a wife for you too.
Come on in the office.
Yeah,
I'll sell you more than the real estate. But I didn't have anything to do with that, by the way. But he told me, I was like, Daniel, I told him, I was like, look, I'm looking for deals. I can't find. He's like, Daniel, look, you sold me buildings for 20,000 a unit in 2009 and 10, and we were scared. We didn't think those deals made any sense. They never make sense when you buy them. They only make sense the year or two after, when the market gets better and you realize how good of a decision you made. You never realize that you're making a great decision until after.
Yeah.
He's like, just buy the real estate. If it makes sense and you can make money and there's a little bit of upside, buy it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Just do it. Pull the trigger, because the first trigger you pull is going to be the hardest. After that, you're like, oh crap, this worked. I'm making money. Okay, let's do it again. And then it's off to the races.
And I would say I agree 100% with that. My only caveat is just make sure it's cash flowing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
If
So
you
you're
can
not
make money and it's cash flowing.
As long as
there's
it's cash
upside,
flowing,
yeah.
and as long as it's one thing if they're a flipper and they maybe want to get out of that in a year and flip the property and think they're going to make $2 million on it. There are people that do that, and that's wonderful, and they do a great job with that. But that's a whole different analysis than someone who says, "Oh yeah, this is a part of my retirement portfolio." Yeah, you're in the long game. Buy it. What is a little market fluctuation going to do over a 10 or 20 year time span? So
the flippers are looking for those bottom of the barrel deals that have a lot of work, or they're off market, or the grandpa doesn't know what it's worth and they just give an off market offer. Good luck with that, because if I get my hands on grandpa, you're paying market. You're paying market. If grandpa sits with me and Evan, you're paying market. Sorry out to all grandpas out there. I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing. There's good deals everywhere, but get out there and find a piece of property that you can make money on and it cash flows, like you said, and you can do fine.
Now, so that statement, so I challenge myself with this, that I've been investing since 2010. All I've known is this upward trajectory here. And I challenge myself and I say, is this the thesis or the theme I've been investing behind for the past 12 years or so? Is that true today, right? And so what are you made a comment about like the new New York or new San Diego, right? What are your thoughts around that?
Ocean and Everglades. Too many butts, not enough seats.
So no room to build new inventory, especially the stuff that we're buying,
yes.
Jaron and I, and a lot of the stuff that you're selling.
For the most part, land for multifamily development is few and far between right now. The only thing that developers can afford to build is Class A, where they're getting $280, $320 a square foot in rents, a 500 square foot box for $2,500 a month in rent. There's only so many people are going to live in those. I'm talking Class C, Class B product. They're not building it. They can't afford to. Cost of construction, land cost, labor, it's too expensive. They can only afford to build top quality properties. So that leaves a lot of room for an investor to come in, buy these Class C buildings and renovate them with Class A renovations. And then you're undercutting these top tier properties by a large margin, but you're still gathering these tenants and these residents that don't want to live in a crappy unit, in a crappy neighborhood. They want to live someplace nice, but they don't want to pay $2,800 for a 500 square foot box downtown and go up and down an elevator to walk their dog. They don't want that. So they're going to live in a nice place, granite, nice floors, nice kitchens, and they're going to be grateful and thankful, and they have good jobs. That's the demographic to target. And that's where you're going to make a lot of money.
And so that's one part of my analysis. Always, it's like, okay, we're looking at this building that Evan and Daniel are selling. Okay, cool. Where is the Class A institutional product associated to that? Okay, they're asking $3,000 or they're getting $3,000 a month in rents, and so we're thinking market for this stuff is $2,000 or something, right, or $2,500 when it's fully done. And it's like that math works, right? It's like we're at a discount to this institutional stuff, right?
And you're not going to tag on garbage and water and
So
valet trash fee and a $1,000 non-refundable pet deposit, and a cleaning fee and 5 months deposits and credit check. And
there's so many more costs associated with going the institutional route as a tenant, right?
And further to that, there's just so many positive factors. Again, like we're saying, using the Florida factor term in terms of landlord-tenant laws, which obviously Jaron's an expert on.
They're very favorable in Florida compared to New York, California, and many other states.
Right. So multiple other reasons, and just the climate, right? I mean, people, I can't tell you how many people that have moved down here, even just, maybe they're a little bit older, but they come down here and like, I started coming down to Florida and I realized I don't have to live through these difficult winters anymore. So just that adds into a lot of it as well. And just the lifestyle.
People often move their money to where they move. So maybe they've moved here first.
For sure.
And they've gotten their second home, and then their second home became their first home, which is here in Florida. And then maybe they have multifamily in New York or wherever, New Jersey.
You're 100%
and then they're bringing their money
trend.
to them.
From California investors, they'll buy a condo in Miami and they're like, look, I want to start buying apartments now that I live here.
Right.
Yeah. Big time.
What about the recent like regional banking crisis that has kind of boiled up here? I know, for example, I used to do a fair amount of loans. You guys have worked with First Republic quite a bit.
Yeah.
And right now their rates are just astronomical. So that's changed. I was looking to use them quite a bit here in the coming future because of they seemed competitive, but then all of a sudden this happened and now they're less competitive. Are you having buyers have issues with getting good financing these days?
No.
Okay.
Look,
Interesting.
the reality is the tech.
I just want to give you a 20-minute warning, and we'll let you know that we are 10 minutes past 11.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay,
man.
thank you.
Thanks.
Because the reality is the tectonic plates of the lending industry is constantly changing. One bank has a bucket of money at the beginning of the year. They got $30 million to put in multifamily, and their interest rates are very competitive. But by the end of the year, when they have $2 million, their interest rates are much higher. They're less competitive. So the goal is if you are an investor and you want to get down here, you want to get good debt. Also, you want to get debt that's a little malleable with their restrictions on insurance, which is a key part in keeping your costs low. You want to work with somebody who specializes in that. And this is me plugging our debt team. Our debt team is so vast; they're doing hundreds of loans a year, billions of dollars worth of loans a year. Our capital markets team, they're plugged in with these lenders. In some cases, some of these lenders are coming to our team and going, "Look, I've got $30 million to put on the streets of multifamily. I'm giving it to you. No other broker has it." And so we're getting lenders coming in with no windstorm requirements, no B&I requirements, cut your insurance premiums down. They're flexible. So First Republic was a great lender, and we use them a lot. We did 32 loans with them last year. Great lender, but things have changed.
Exactly.
The banking crisis, though, if you look at SVP, I think the FDIC insured amount is 250. 90% of deposits in almost every bank is under 250,000. SVP was very different. 90% of their deposits were over 5 million.
Mhm.
All of those investors, that's where they got bailed out. So most banks, they're covered, but yeah. So my only fear is that all this money gets pooled to the larger banks, and the larger banks are not competitive. You need these local banks. They're the players that are winning right
Credit
now with the
unions.
business.
Yep.
Majority of the credit unions and the smaller banks have heavy balance sheets in commercial real estate.
Yeah.
If you're looking to get a loan on a building right now, stay away from the agency lenders. They will not bend on insurance, and their requirements are heavy. You will get crushed with insurance in Florida if you go with these agency lenders, and they don't care. It's a government entity. They don't care.
Meaning Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
Freddie Mac.
Yeah.
Stick with the local banks, but again, those plates are shifting. Find a broker, a mortgage broker that knows the most aggressive capital, and you'll be successful.
I'd say that's huge. I mean, that's how I met First Republic initially through your team. So, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, they're the darling, on the finance side for a
Yeah.
long time. Like you said, just everyone's
Tom, head of
go-to,
credit,
right?
great guy. We get to know these guys personally because we do so much business with them,
Yeah.
and they call us and they see us at a property like, you guys are selling this great. This will go smooth,
Yeah. So, just to wrap things up here pretty soon, what
I'm having
are
so much fun.
I know we are. Yeah,
Great-
I know.
great
This is actually a lot of fun. I like
listen,
this.
You got to get back to matchmaking and finding
right.
wives for clients. So, yeah.
You're married, Sharon. You need to stop.
Getting in trouble.
So, any kind of last words of advice for any multifamily folks who are looking to either upsize or downsize or or get into the market? What's anything else that we haven't covered here?
Call Daniel or I.
Call Daniel or you. There you go.
No, if you're going to work with an agent, work with somebody that is selling, helping people buy and sell multiple deals a year. I'm talking like at least 10 to 15 deals they have transit. Look, if you're going to hire an agent to buy or sell, ask for their track record. I want to, not deals that I knew of. No, deals that you've actually bought and sold, because that's a testament to their skill set and their ability to navigate you through a deal. If they don't have it, you're going to have problems.
Got it.
Because there's a lot of problems going on right now they won't know how to solve.
I agree with that. You need somebody who's really in the game. Like,
Yeah.
stop wasting your time with guys who aren't really in the game.
Right.
Well, this lady,
Surround yourself with the right people.
Oh, you
right?
got a
This is huge.
postcard in the mail.
Mary
Right.
sold me a condo on the beach, and now she's going to help me buy multifamily. No, sorry, Mary. You don't know this game because I don't know how to sell a house or a condo. I don't even know what a lead paint disclosure looks like. I have no clue how to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's specialties in both sides, right? I mean, example, like I bought a 9-unit condo building from the broker who helped the guy on the residential side acquire all 9 units. And that's a very different thing than selling 9 units as a
Oh, yeah.
multifamily building.
Yep.
And so I got a good deal. That's it, right?
You did.
So,
You got a
yeah.
very good
I
deal
just-
on that.
I had this little fourplex I put on the MLS because it's a favor to a client I'm selling. And this is no disrespect for you because I know you would make this mistake. Sends me an offer. It's listed at 720. Sends me an offer for 680 and then sends me an email from the lender saying that the loan amount of up to 720 is approved. Why would you send me that? I would tell my lenders like, no, don't give me that loan amount at 720. Give it to me at 680 because
Of
my
course.
offer's at 680.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the
That's showing
selling
your
broker,
cards.
Yeah,
now the
yeah.
selling
I see
broker
that.
knows that they'll pay 720.
That's a rookie mistake.
Now I know
yeah.
to counter that offer at 720
Yeah.
because I'm getting that 40K from my seller.
Yeah. There's these nuances in experience that matter. It really is.
That's the difference between somebody that knows what they're doing and somebody that doesn't.
Experience,
Yeah.
for sure. Any other questions for the gentleman?
Let's see. I don't think so. I think you guys have been very thorough.
This has been
Thank you.
a,
Yeah, it's
a
been
really great chat. I appreciate it. We
Absolutely.
should do this more often.
Bring
Next-
me on anytime as a guest speaker when you have somebody else. I'm cool with it. Anytime. I love it. This is good.
Next time we'll bring the beers. Yeah.
He'll
There
do
you go.
magic tricks next time.
Of the day.
Yeah,
and that too.
absolutely.
I should have asked you. Yeah. Your magic skills are the only thing that's better than your multifamily brokering skills. They're awesome. I've watched. So just to leave you with this, I've watched multiple times. Daniel, we would be going out. This is years ago when we were still going out to bars, but he would go to a bar and after the second or third magic trick, he would have 20 people around him and almost always attractive women too. So I realized why
Funny
he
how
got
that
into
works.
magic.
Right.
Yeah. So-
Doesn't work the way you think it does. When I used to do magic, I would get the 13-year-olds and the 90-year-olds. All the normal women that were gorgeous, like, I could never trust you. Never trust you.
You trickster, you.
But I'm so good with my hands. Can you see?
That's great.
But we really appreciate you guys inviting
we
us. and
appreciate
having
both of
us
you.
Well, thank you.
Part of this. It's been
Yeah.
great.
So thank you. And how can they get in touch with you? We'll definitely put your information in the description of the video. But your best phone number to reach,
954-245-3501.
and Daniel.
You can call me on my cell phone, 954-501-5020. But email is daniel.cunningham@marcusmillichap.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me, email.
And Evan.Richardson.
Evan.Richardson@marcusmillichap.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great day. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I appreciate it. If you like this video, please like and comment and subscribe for similar content.